So, welcome to Reality Benders, episode 2. We just recorded for like 30 minutes and it wasn't recording. So, today I got an awesome guest. She goes by Biohacking Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to give us a ton of awesome tips on, how we can get healthier, right? So, when I look at this entire framework of, becoming a reality bender, what is a reality bender? It's someone who's able to bend reality towards their will. That encompasses a lot of different pieces that we have to juggle between our relationships, our career, our health, our finances, right? And we got to get these all right in order to live our ideal reality. Because if you're missing one of those pieces, it's not really your ideal reality. So what I wanted to talk with her today about was, this concept of biohacking and how we can really take control of both our physical and mental health and use that, as leverage for all the other pieces we're trying to put together. So could you start off by just telling us a little more about like what biohacking is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I define biohacking is holistic self-care for optimal health. And that is my definition. I mean, there's a bunch out there, but basically what that means is that it's looking at the body as a whole and it's looking at the person as a whole. So you're looking at their spiritual health, emotional health, physical health, rather than just focusing on a single aspect. Because humans are complex and health is complex. And so we really have to keep that in mind when we're trying to heal the body and become healthier, is we need to treat our bodies in the same way. And that's how I work with my clients, is in a very holistic manner, and also looking for the root cause of what's going on with what they're dealing with, their symptoms and signs with their illness.
So how do you know if you're healthy?
Yeah, so of course, like, tough question, because it definitely depends on the person. How do you know if you're healthy? Well, I think it's probably easier to know if you're healthy than if you're unhealthy, now that I'm thinking about it. But if you're healthy, you have great stress management, mood management, energy management. You don't rely on substances to get you through the day. And that can be different things. So that could be food, that could be caffeine, that could be antidepressants. It could be any type of substance, could be weed, anything like that. You're sleeping throughout the night easily, falling asleep easily, staying asleep the whole night, waking up refreshed every single night. You have the mental capacity to work and get your work done without falling asleep, without dozing off, and losing track of your thought. So it's basically just like functioning the best you can in every aspect of your life. And now, of course, perfect health does not exist. And I really, really do believe that. And a lot of people in my field believe that as well. So it's important to understand that there's no like beautiful, holy level that you're trying to reach, but most people can be healthier than they are right now. And most people can be functioning better if they knew what to do to get there.
So I think one thing that I really picked up on that's got my brain turning is you talk about not relying on substances to get you throughout your day. Now, I know that certain things like, for example, nootropics can be a powerful tool in helping you get through your day. Or someone like me, like I love coffee. I'll be honest, weed helps me focus a lot. And I've created this routine where, I know some of these habits aren't good for me, but they're very effective and I'm happy and fulfilled. So it feels like I almost feel this like hesitancy to move in a different direction, even though I know that there's things that are hurting my health, just because I am in a good state. So how would you navigate those waters?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like that, it's like that for any type of thing that you're relying on, right? So when you're drinking at a bar, you feel good and you feel great, but it doesn't mean that you should be doing it in excess and doing it every night. And it could be the same with any type of substance, or even relationships with people. It could be anything. Like, gambling, anything that you can basically abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go into excess of these things, you're kind of pushing it. You're pushing your health. It might feel good right now, but it's not going to feel good in 10 years, 20 years if you keep it up. So now, of course, like everyone smokes. Well, not everyone smokes, but a lot of people smoke, and a lot of people drink, and a lot of people gamble. And I think there's moderation for these things, but I don't know, everyone's moderation levels are different. So, and they also change throughout your life. So, you know, what you can drink at 18 is going to be different than what you can drink at 45 and what you should be drinking at 45.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't adjust, right? A lot of people just keep those habits going. And it's the type of habit that it's like, I work 9 to 5, I come home and I have 3 beers, and I've been doing that for 20 years. I'm fine. But no, really, you're not. Like when we do the testing, when we look at your gut microbiome, your mental health, your hormones, X, Y, and Z, you're really not doing well with that one habit that you've been doing for 20 years. So just because you've been doing it for a long time and you feel good in the moment doesn't mean it's not negatively affecting you long-term and going to have repercussions later down the line.
Now, how would someone start that path? Let's say okay, I hear you. You're totally right. Like, I need to start doing that. How do I do that? Because this is something that's so ingrained. Like, I don't feel like I can get out of that, especially if like the people around them have similar habits too. Like, how do you fight back against that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So 2 things. One, some people do really well with cold turkey. So I'm a cold turkey type of person. Like if I'm going to cut out caffeine, I fully cut it out and I'll go a few months without it. Like I don't do like 1 cup a day, or like sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. Like my personality does very well with just like black and white, super easy moving forward. Other people are the complete opposite. So they have to slowly wean off of it. You go from 3 cups a day to 2 cups a day to 1 cup a day, and then you no longer need it. You're not as reliant on it. So it depends on your personality. And then the other thing would be like the people that you're surrounded with is huge, is a huge factor. Like what's that quote? Like you're the sum of the 5 people closest to you.
Yeah.
That is so accurate on so many different levels, like mental health, physical health, your wealth, how much income you make, like everything. So although we love our friends and we love our family, I'm not saying like get rid of them, obviously. But, you know, as you move into a better version of yourself and healthier version of yourself, it might be worthwhile to invest into relationships that reflect that as well. And then
I think that is because I completely agree. And what's terrifying for a lot of us when we hear that quote is we look at a lot of the people and, you know, they may be an amazing person that we love, but then we look at some of their habits and we're like, I don't want to be the average of that.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like a lot of us will end at that quote because we don't want to cut these people out of our life. Like we care about them. But I think the solution is exactly what like the solution is simply not to just focus on cutting those people out, but adding the right people in and nurturing that relationship. Because that will just start to create this organic shift into being around the people that have the habits you want.
Yeah.
And we can all do that without, instead of focusing on this like painful subtraction, we're focused on this exciting addition.
Yeah.
And that can make that transition easier.
Yeah. I think also like you should be, I mean, we'll talk about friends because you choose your friends. You should be, and like relationships, you should be around people who make you a better person. And if you have people who are bringing you down, like, what are you doing? You know, you're just kind of wasting your life and you're wasting your time. Now, it's very easy to say that for like me, because I have gone through friendships that have been lost, and but that's a part of growing older. Like you kind of just get this perspective of like, if we're not on the same wavelength, or we don't have to be the exact same, like think the same way, but if you're not making me a better person and making me step up my game in some area of my life, Why are we hanging out? Like, I can like meet new people. It's a big city, you know, there's many different ways to meet people now. So yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of have to step up to the plate and look at the people around you and think about where you're going to be in 5 years if you continue hanging out with these people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, you talk about gut health a lot. And one thing that, I've heard a lot about is, the microbiome. And I understand the very, fundamental aspect of it, but I think there's a lot of confusion around it. And like, I don't know that much about it. I just know it's something I should be focusing on. So could you tell people a little more about like the importance of gut health and how we can accomplish that?
Yeah. So our gut tends to be the foundation of our health. All of the food, all of the supplements, all of the drugs, everything goes through our digestive system. And when it is not functioning properly, we tend to not function properly, whether it's physically or mentally or these other ways that we're talking about. So a lot of practitioners really take it back to the gut and work from there, and then work their way up. The microbiome is complex. So it's a ton of different types of bacteria in your gut who are digesting your food, absorbing nutrients, doing all sorts of things that really help you become healthier. But from our food, from antibiotics, from medicines, all of these different things, we've really screwed our gut over in many different ways. So that's why we're seeing chronic illness so much now. Like, it's so common in North America, is because of those issues. Pesticides, herbicides, all these things that are added to our food that kill off these bacteria. So we want bacteria in our gut. Like, we wouldn't be able to survive without bacteria in our gut. So we really need to just nourish them and take care of them and help them so that they can help us.
Yeah. So how do we strengthen our microbiome?
Yeah. I mean, an easy place to start for most people, I recommend, is starting with fermented food. You don't even need to go out and buy a probiotic, a prebiotic supplement. Like, just leave that for now. Literally just adding a dose of fermented food a day is going to be
Could
beneficial.
you give a couple examples?
Yeah. So kombucha is a great one. Super popular now.
I love kombucha.
Yeah. Really easy to have access to it. Try and get kombucha with a low amount of sugar. So under 5 grams of sugar is preferred. Sauerkraut, pickles are fermented. So anything that's got like that sour flavor is really going to help. But kombucha is a great place to start, honestly. Yeah,
I feel different when I drink it. Like, it helps. It's crazy how like everything clears up. So one thing I'm super fascinated with is diving into the world of nootropics. And at least for someone like me, like, I'm trying to I struggle with long periods of focus. Like, I'm very ambitious, and I need to be focusing from like 7 in the morning to like 9 p.m. basically. And I'm trying to find ways to accomplish that. That isn't, drinking 4 cups of coffee or, taking a bunch of Adderall. Like, I'm trying to find like, healthy ways to accomplish that. And, I've tested a bunch of different stuff, but like one world that seems really enticing to me is this world of nootropics. Could you, explain to people what that is and how we can use it to, benefit us?
Yeah, absolutely. Nootropics is a huge field. Well, I mean, it's really growing compared to where it was a year and a half ago. It's crazy. Basically, nootropics are a type of supplement that boosts brain function. And it does that through vitamins, minerals, herbs. Sometimes it'll have hormonal precursors to it. There's all different like blends, but essentially they all aim to do the same thing. And that is like memory recall, concentrating, like you talked about, just different things like that. So a lot of people use them. I recommend them, definitely. I think they can be great. I especially like the ones that don't have caffeine in them, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we need more caffeine. And yeah, they can be very beneficial. Like I have used a lot of different brands, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them can really help. And I've also had Adderall before when I was in university,
Mm-hmm.
and it's similar. It's
Yeah.
like Adderall. When I took Adderall, it was very you focus on one thing and
Yeah.
then you forget about everything else type of thing,
Yeah.
you know? And like, if you
Yeah.
log onto Facebook, cool, you're on Facebook for 5 hours
Yeah,
now. Like,
you're gonna be through like someone's
yeah,
feed down to like 2007.
yeah, exactly. Whereas like nootropics, I wouldn't say it's like that, but it just gives you the energy that you need. It boosts your mood as well. You tend to feel really good on them. There's a lot of like happy hormones going around, a lot of serotonin.
The
So
way
yeah.
I see it is it's like, you know, when a camera is like out of focus and then it like focuses in. That's
Yeah.
what it feels like to me. It feels like
Nice.
my brain's all, cause like my brain gets all jumbled up and then I'm like, you take that and
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
but one thing that, so I was curious specifically about those like prescribed medications like Adderall. Like,
Mm.
are those, because I've heard like they can alter the way your brain like grows in the future, but
Mm.
like are those bad for you? Are they good for you? Like what's the deal with like actual prescription medications like Adderall, Ritalin, you know?
Yeah. I mean, of course they have their place in the world.
Mm-hmm.
When you have kids who have ADHD and ADD, like, I'm not going to say don't take them. That's
Mm-hmm.
not my place to say that. That's a parent's decision. But I do think, of course, they're abused in university. And I do think that they can be harmful when overdone, like anything in
Mm-hmm.
excess. So something that a lot of people don't realize is that your brain is actually still developing until the age of 25.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you stop growing at 18, 19, however old you are, your brain is not done. It is not fully matured yet.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're taking these substances that are altering it, you're messing with that. You really got to be careful. Like every day, it's just, and then the impact on your hormones as well, like the swing of it, and you feel low after, no energy after. Like you got to be careful. And same with
Mm-hmm.
weed, even like weed's obviously legal in Canada now, and I think that's great in some instances.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't realize is that weed works because, so when you smoke, or I guess like even take an edible, it reduces blood flow to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have anxiety or you're upset or whatever, and you don't want to feel that way anymore, so you smoke, which is what so many people do,
Mm-hmm.
you feel better because it's literally shunting blood away from your brain. So your brain is no longer working as efficiently as it was beforehand.
Interesting.
So how can it be healthy to smoke every day or to have weed every day when you're pulling blood away from your brain, when your blood is filled with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, everything that you need for your brain to properly work?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely like not against weed. Like I smoke
Mm-hmm.
weed, it's
Mm-hmm.
fine, but it's just the abuse of it, and it's the
Yeah.
abuse of Adderall and these things that I worry about for a lot of people.
What do you think is like a, I don't know if healthy is the right word, but what do you think is like an okay time frame specifically on like smoking that like is not like what would you say is like the healthiest like regimen if it's someone that's interested in that and wants to be able to do that but doesn't want to like mess their brain up?
Like how often they can do it?
Yeah.
Um, I would say, I mean, I don't know, a few times a
Yeah.
week. It's probably
Yeah.
not what you want to hear.
Yeah. No, well, I'm super interested because like I'll be honest, that's something I struggle with.
Yeah.
And like I said, like I feel this like, you know, I'm just trying to find this, like I feel like my body's almost this like chemistry set where I'm trying to find this balance of all these different things between like meditating and getting sleep and eating
Mm,
healthy and
mm,
like, you know, nootropics or, you know, Adderall or whatever. There's all these things that are helping me just like be the optimal functioning person.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say no to things like weed when I see it benefiting me. But at the same time, like hearing how you explain that, like, I know that that's probably fucked me up, to be honest. Like that scares me, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out, like, how is this? I know it's something that I do too much.
Yeah.
But like, how do I get out of the need to feel like I have to, or that like I really want to? And
Yeah.
like, what would be a alternative that could accomplish the same feeling?
Yeah. I think something important to realize, and this is not something like you need to answer on your podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you might want to assess what weed is really doing for you
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. Like,
Yeah.
why do you feel a need to smoke?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you feel like you're lacking something else in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I can talk about things that I've done. Like why am I growing on Instagram? Why do I post on Instagram so much?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe I like the attention, but then why do I like the attention? Oh, maybe because I don't love myself enough and I need to be focusing better on self-love. So everything that we do, every habit that we have has some sort of root cause to it. So I think you should, if you're willing, like take a step back and just like ask yourself, like, why am I smoking in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this numbing for me or giving me that I'm not getting in other places of my life?
Well, I think what happened for me is it just became such an ingrained habit that I think it just became like a foundation of like what I don't know, it's like a feeling almost of like, it's definitely like something I see what you mean, where it's like, you become reliant on it, and it like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I guess for me, it's just like, it's just so ingrained that like, I probably don't even really realize I'm doing it, to the point that I've become like reliant on it because it's so deep at the core of my foundation.
Yeah. It could be like, I don't know much about like your
Yeah.
life in the last couple of years, but with that type of thing, like it could be that you are actually going through a lot of change in other areas of your life.
Oh, for
And
sure.
smoking weed feels like something that is safe for you and security. And so therefore you smoke it and it's something your body knows and you know.
That's literally it. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Whoa, it's literally a security.
It's a security.
That's
100%.
nuts.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's so true. Because, I've literally, like, in the last, 5 or 6 years, that this is the first 2-year span I've lived in the same place. And I went from, going to college all the way to dropping out and starting my own business, building that up to a 6-figure business, having it collapse on me, and then simultaneously trying to pursue a career in music, which is its own stress. And then finally making that full transition now where, over the last year, I've gotten out of, 40 grand of debt. I'm debt free, and now I'm doing what I love and I'm fulfilled.
Nice. Good for you.
But that whole process was this up and down curve of change. And the one thing that stayed constant through all of that was the smoking weed. So for me, like, because I can look at that and like, I know that I'm biased around it and I'm just justifying it, but I couldn't figure out why. And so I think you're right, and I think this is a lot of people, right? Because like, I know a lot of people that are super, they care about their health, they're motivated, they're trying to do all this stuff, and they still, either smoke a bunch of weed or coffee, or, they have their vice. Most of us do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the reason why we don't want to let go could be exactly that, right? Is it's become a security for us. So let me ask you this: how would you replace that with a new security? Sense of security.
Yeah. I think this is probably out of the scope of this conversation, but I think the only sense of security that you can possibly have is in yourself. And now I don't know if you're religious, so it could be religion for you and God and that type of thing. But I think like that's the only true thing that you have now and will always have. So like last year, so I was traveling last year for a year, and I wanted to begin giving up drinking,
Mm-hmm.
but I have literally been drinking since I was 16. And like every Friday night, like clockwork, I think I've had a weekend off here and there, but like
Mm-hmm.
every Friday night is like a glass of wine,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, it doesn't matter what the drink is. And when I first had to start breaking that habit, it was so hard because exactly like you said, it's you're comfortable, it's security, it's a part of who you are, and you start justifying it like, oh, nothing wrong with doing this on a Friday night. But I was literally drinking every single weekend, and I was like, that's
Mm-hmm.
crazy, like that is too much, like I need to slow down anyway. So yeah, I think it's hard, and I think you need to do a lot of deep work and
Mm-hmm.
find the confidence in yourself and the security in yourself. Because if you switch to a different substance or you start relying on a person, how reliable is that long term?
Yeah.
It's not,
It's not
unfortunately.
sustainable.
It's not sustainable. So it really has to come from within.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, because I think the biggest issue for me that's been holding me back is I felt like I didn't have a reason to quit.
Mm,
Because I'm like, I'm happy, I'm fulfilled, I'm really healthy in a bunch of other areas. Like
yeah,
I work out pretty much every day, I stretch, I meditate, I, take vitamins in the morning that cover all my daily nutrition. Like I
yeah,
drink kombucha regularly to like
yeah,
have a healthy microbiome. Like I feel like I'm doing a lot,
yeah,
but I feel like a lot of that, obviously I want to be as healthy as possible, but to be honest, I think a lot of that work has stemmed from this feeling of guilt that I know
mm-hmm.
although I'm doing all that, I'm still smoking weed every day.
Yeah. It's almost like you're adding in habits to justify smoking.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
And like I
Yeah.
know it, but at the same time, it's like it's tough to give it up because like I said, I'm happy. I feel I'm
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled. I feel pretty healthy. Like I take good care of myself, but like it's just this weird kind of like and what it is it's a sense of security. What it
Yeah.
is. And that's crazy to think about it that way. Like I haven't
Yeah.
thought about it that way.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Well, I think if you also think about like what you were saying earlier of like you struggling concentrating, right? Like
Yeah.
that could be a reason that you begin to decline using it as much because you
Mhm.
want to concentrate better.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that's
I've
so
gone through periods too, where it gets tricky with me is it's really helpful for music and
mm,
creativity, which is a big aspect of what I do.
right.
Which, but at the same time, it's like, well, but are you relying on that, or is it,
Yeah.
or is there another alternative that can provide the same results?
Yeah.
To stem off of that, I'd love to hear, have you done any research or do you know anything about like microdosing or using psychedelics as an alternative?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. I would love to do ayahuasca. I don't know if you know what that is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's on my list. Yeah, I have microdosed before with mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have too much experience with it, but I have a whole bottle of them, so I should use them. Um, yeah, I think a lot of people have success with microdosing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to be careful in the beginning of your dosage. So
Mm-hmm.
start small. Don't assume that you can have this amount that somebody else had because you
Yeah.
could totally trip out and then ruin
Mm-hmm.
your day. Um, so really just start small. But yeah, a lot of people, a lot of biohackers swear by it because of the creativity pathways it lights up in
Mm-hmm.
the brain. And so that's a very, very interesting world that we're now coming into.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a place in Vancouver that you can buy mushrooms from now. And they are like, it's not like from some guy you met off the internet. It's
Yeah.
literally a mushroom like store, like medicinal mushroom store.
It's
So
crazy.
it's kind of cool to see this like trend coming out
Mm-hmm.
now because for so long, psychedelics were seen as like terrible and bad and like shamed and all of these things, and like they were only the hippies do them and like whatever, right? But I think they do have some amazing medicinal ways in the body, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the next 10 years for
So
sure.
outside of like psychedelic mushrooms, do you
Mm.
know anything about like how just mushrooms in general can be beneficial for our health?
Yeah, so mushrooms, so non-medicinal mushrooms
Hmm.
um, can definitely be very beneficial. So I don't know if you've heard of the word adaptogens.
I've heard of it, couldn't tell you what it means.
Yeah, so basically what that means is that it is a herb or a plant like a mushroom
Hmm.
that when you ingest it, it will help balance out your hormones, whether you need more of a specific hormone or less. So it balances out hormones in different ways. So it's not like you're going to take this and it's going to increase your testosterone.
Hmm.
If you have high T,
Hmm.
it'll bring it down. So that's what that's what those do. They adapt to your body.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why a lot of people take mushrooms. They put mushrooms in their coffee,
Yeah.
like reishi, cordyceps, lion's mane, a whole bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
And these are not medicinal. Like these, well, I guess it depends on the word medicinal, but they won't make you trip out. Like you're not
Yeah.
going to start seeing things.
Yeah.
And they're really good for your brain. So
Hmm.
a lot of nootropics, like we were talking about, have a lot of mushrooms in them because
Hmm.
they support brain health in that way.
Yeah. Well, I've heard of like
Yeah.
have you heard of like Four Sigmatic?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I tried their coffee for a while and
So
it's
good.
it's crazy. Like so just like little things like being able to do that in the morning with
Mm-hmm.
like I was curious like how do you see how does meditation affect your health both mentally
Mm,
and physically?
mm. Yeah, I think meditation is great because it really slows us down. I think a lot of people are go, go, go. We're always checking our phones. We're, notification after notification. And there's kind of a lack of looking inward and kind of assessing ourselves and our self-talk, which a
Mhm.
lot of us have really negative self-talk.
Mhm.
um, and really supporting our breathing as well. Like a lot of us breathe very shallow
Yeah.
and we don't breathe fully into our stomachs like we're supposed to,
Mhm.
Um, so physically, it can really help with that type of thing. And mentally, when you take time to meditate and take time for yourself, it just creates this is what I find. When I meditate regularly, it creates like space in my day. I don't know how to describe it. Like gaps. Like I'm able to
Mhm.
actually like assess what's going on and be super, super present.
Yeah. The way I've chosen to view reality, I'm a firm believer that reality is solely based on your perspective of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Events are neutral. It's our perception of them that
Of
determine
course.
whether they're positive or negative.
Of course.
And using that framework, I don't know if you're familiar with simulation theory at all.
Mm-mm.
Um, Basically, it's this theory that we're basically in a simulation.
Mm.
And I'm not going to get into it. You can go look it up there. But
Yeah.
basically, they make a pretty good argument that we're probably in a simulation.
Cool.
And I, under the framework I have, understanding that, our reality is based on our perception of it, I've chosen to frame my existence through the lens that I'm a character in a video game.
Cool.
And what meditation has done for me is it's allowed me to create that separation
Mm.
from self, because we think we are our body, we think we are our
Yeah.
mind, we think, and what happens is if we think we are this character in the video game, like we take everything really personally, like it's hard to control your nervous system, your emotions, because when emotions are happening, you think that it's something outside of your control, when in reality, it's more like, a cloud passing overhead where you're just observing the fact that it
Yeah.
happens. So like, someone might be playing a video game, but they're not going to take it personally when their character dies, right? It's not
Yeah.
as if they died,
Yeah.
right? So like when you meditate every day, you're creating this separation
Yeah.
where you're able to view your character from a third party perspective almost, which allows you to do exactly what you're talking about. Like when stressors come up, you can analyze it
Yeah.
instead of just reacting to it,
Yes.
because you have that separation, which gives you a moment to, I like classify like what's happening.
Yeah.
How do I take this data that's coming in and process it properly? And
Yeah.
that's where it's changed my life, because I meditate every day in the morning, like no
Nice.
matter what, like I'm brushing my teeth, because like I've seen that profound effect if I do it every day. And, so I was interested to hear, your perspective on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that perspective before. And people have like framed it in different ways, but I love the idea of the video game. I think that's really cool. And it's also just like being able to step away from yourself like that, and then not judging yourself, right? So if you're able to separate like that, and then you have a thought, instead of like having an emotional response to it, you just like sit there and go, oh, that's an interesting thought, like no judgment, like and so being able to separate, like exactly like you said, is huge. You become less reactive, and I think we all need to be less reactive.
Well, you see that reactivity then change how you approach your health, because when you're stressed and you're anxious, that's when you rely on escapism.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to those other areas. And I think what's cool about meditating too is it forces you to look straight at yourself. Because when you're just in nothing but your head, you have no way to hide from your problems. Like they're just going to pop up into your head no matter what. So when you're forced to like face them, like even if it takes a while, like inevitably you're going to address the things that are happening. Like it'll happen subconsciously. You won't even realize it. But like, everything has their tipping point. Like for me, for weed, for example, like, I know it's something I've needed to address for a while, but not knowing how to, or not feeling like I had a reason to, like, has kept me from doing it. But as long I kept reminding myself, and like inevitably I know I'm going to figure it out.
Nice. Good.
Right. But cool. So what I would ask is, for anyone, just to, kind of wrap this conversation up, for anyone that's like, all right, like I see what you're saying. Like, I know I really want to take hold of my health. Like what should I do next?
Yeah, I think like self-awareness is really important. And meditation totally like plays a part in that. Yeah, it's kind of assessing of where you are right now. Like how bad is it? How good is it? And where do you want to go? And through that analysis, you will be able to realize the areas of your life that need the most work. And then you can start with one area at a time. So like I've been in the biohacking space for like over 2 years. I've been in the health world for over 10 years, like ever since I had my own health issues. And it takes a long time to understand what's going on, pick up these healthy habits, and really build. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't have to do everything perfectly every single day. It takes time, and it takes time to like ease into a healthy space for yourself. And sometimes you move backwards, and you do things wrong, or things change with your health. And so it's just a journey, right? Like you have to understand it's a journey. And once you kind of get that, then progress can really start.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I think we killed it.
Yeah.
Episode 2 in the books. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
That
Thank
was
you for having me.
super helpful. I had a breakthrough today, but that's a lot of the reason why I did this podcast, right? It's to, I'm trying to become the best version of myself. And I know that that's going to come from, addressing my pitfalls and looking at every piece of this puzzle and really diving into like, how do we get the most out of life? Right.
Absolutely.
And what will happen from that, pathway of me pursuing that curiosity is little nuggets like that I want to spread to other people. Cause I know so many people, we're all going through we're all trying to solve the same puzzle. Right.
Yeah.
And, we all have our different version of it, and we have our strengths and our weaknesses, but there's so many underlying similarities that, when we can really tap into the, perspectives of people that have mastered these different areas, we'll have a lot easier time at, really just, cutting out a lot of the trial and error, and really just getting right down to like, how do we really juggle this properly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right.
So awesome. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to?
Yeah, obviously, my website is biohackingbrittany.com. That's where I am on all social media channels as well. If you have any questions, I answer, I think, all of my DMs. Yeah. And like, if you want to be a client, that too, we can talk about. And yeah, once again, yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Well, we killed it.
Oh.
We out.